All right, team, let's get into effects. We're talking about filters, dynamic processors, compressors, things like that. Talking about reverb, delay, and then modulation sources such as flanger, phaser, things like that. Now, Arturia really backs it up here. Their slogan is effects that you'll actually use. If you buy Arturia V8 a la carte, you don't get any effects. But if you go for the full package, as mentioned in some of the previous videos, then you get quite a lot. I feel like the effects blow everything that Native Instruments has to offer out of the water. So in order to really match this properly, the $1,200 that you would invest in Arturia would be the same that you would invest in a Komplete 13 Ultimate. If we scroll all the way to the bottom here, you can see all of the effects that you get. A solid bus compressor, an EQ, dynamics processor, kind of bus processor and supercharger, transient master, Varicomp, which is another kind of gentle compressor for mastering, a kind of manly passive EQ and enhanced EQ and passive EQ, and a couple of compressors that emulate some of the great compressors of the past. So yes, it's true, you get a lot more stuff here, but will you use it? That is the argument that we've been throwing back and forth throughout this. Will these sounds be relevant in the next couple of years? Will I still be able to use these sounds? Without question. If you're a composer and you need string instruments, you should definitely pick up Native Instruments because that is going to support what you're doing. But if that isn't the kind of music that you write, if you don't need a lead violin, then why pick up this bundle? This is only going to apply to you if you are going to be using certain kinds of instruments. Obviously, another benefit of Native Instruments is you get a bunch of basses, you get a bunch of drums and guitars. So if that's something that you need, then you really should consider this item. But the question is, again, are you actually going to use this stuff? If you're not, and you're looking for sounds that you're going to use time and time again, that are going to last for years and years, then you should consider Arturia. So I've set up a session for you here, and I've put up a couple of scenarios with effects. So we're going to start from the top and work our way down. So in terms of master bus processing, okay, I have a compressor in the Diode 609. I know this is created after the Neve 33609 mastering plugin. Sounds absolutely amazing. I love how clean and how it merely just kind of coats a song in a nice warm way. This one is the only comparison that I could find within the Native Instruments family called the Varicomp. And it's gentle. I like how gentle it is, but it doesn't really hold up, and you'll see what I mean in a second. I'll be bypassing these back and forth. Let's go ahead and turn on the Diode 609, and let's take a good listen here. A lot of great things are happening here. It's really hugging the signal, but it's not necessarily suffocating it. You can go ahead and have a soft bypass here. If you want some advanced controllers, you can click on the menu up on top. And again, this is another reason why it blows the competition out of the water. There's just so much more that you can do in here by way of side chaining and things of that nature. You can actually link these so they work together, but you can also use this in dual mono mode, so the compressor is working independently with the left and the right channel. So this sounds really nice. Let's check out the Varimu and see how it measures up. We're using a compressor, so the idea is that we're theoretically kind of limiting the dynamic range a bit just to kind of control the sound, and then hence we can make it louder and it sounds that much more professional. Let's check it out. Yeah, so it really just depends on the kind of tone that you like. How much of the song do you want to be covered up by the compressor? For me, the more transparent, the better. I think it really should hug it. I think it really should coat it, but not at the expense of kind of changing the overall characteristic and inherent loudness level. So good stuff. I like it. Let's move on. I will leave the diode on because that's just the sound that I prefer. I'm going to go up to the drums, and I will solo those so you could hear them all together. So this is what we have with no processing. All right, so something that we get when we purchase the effects collection is the bus force. Force of nature, I would reckon. This thing is amazing. It's got an equalizer, it's part filter, part compressor, and saturator. Best part about it is you can actually order these so that they kind of affect one another in serial. So if you want to have the filter before the saturator or the saturator before the compressor, you can do this kind of thing. So let's go ahead and listen to the signal with it. Yeah, you can hear that the overall quality is really starting to improve by using this. Couple of features that I really like here: the fact that you can add more of the saturation path or back off of, let's say, the compression path or what have you. You can see that it's muted there. But yeah, it has a built-in clipper as well. Just a overall great tonal quality. So here's bypass, and then I'll just push it in here in a second. Yeah, the dynamics started going out of control when the impact came into the scene, and Bus Force was just able to kind of handle all that information and clean things up. All right, the supercharger, which is Native Instruments equivalent, does a couple of interesting things, and I actually do like it for drum processing. It has a built-in saturator, it has a character tape knob as well, and then a built-in compressor. You got that wet dry knob, allows you to blend to taste. So here's what the signal sounds like with Supercharger GT. Again, not worse. It's just which one do you prefer and which one is going to be a more efficient tool. Not all of us can take all the time necessary to learn every single tool. And so part of what I love about music production is that you can get started today. You don't have to wait 5 years to be accredited or something. You can just get started if you have the will, if you have the perseverance, then you'll find your place. But there it is right there. There are some bus processors. I'm not throwing any shade on Supercharger. I actually like it. I just think Bus Force has a little bit more to offer, more flexibility certainly. And we haven't really even looked into all the various parts, but there's a lot of good stuff in here. There's also a soft bypass here. Along the same line, we're now going to test out the 1176 series. This is a FET compressor, really good stuff. Now, we're already using bus processing, and we're using it in stereo, so the channels are linked. What we're going to do this time is go into the Advanced tab, and we're going to use some of the extra features available in most of these plugins. Arturia just gives you so many different options. So what I'll do here in detection mode is I'll set this to mid. And if we read a little bit closer, it says defines which signal the compressor is listening to and using for detection. Okay, so based on this setting here, this is a stereo signal, so you can use this. I'm only going to hit the mids. Now, why am I going to do that? Well, you think about a drum track stack or a drum group. I've got all sorts of cymbals and effects and all sorts of stuff going on. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to really try and target the kick so I can place it in the stereo field, and I get the chance to really make it kind of more intense. I can play with front to back placement as well. And so right now we're just hitting the mids, and if I was using an external sidechain, which I'm not, I could actually control the sound and how hard it's coming into the signal, but we're using the internal sidechain. And so now listen to the kick with this on, and I'll bypass it a couple times. All right, and you see the little circle here is telling you, hey, you've made some changes in the advanced tab. And in terms of the specifics, I want to use a very fast attack. I don't want to squish the signal, so I want to open it up a little bit. So we'll do that, and then I'll just play with the input. Right now, the input and output are currently not linked, and that is because if I link them, to the degree that I increase the input, the output is going to be decreased. And so I don't want that. I actually want to push the compressor harder, and I want to listen to the kick a little bit higher in this particular context. So you can hear how it's really shaping the signal, but it's fairly transparent. It's not overdoing. I'm not hearing any crushing or distortion or anything like that. One thing we'll do is also back off of the release so it's not hugging it so much. So we'll go down to 3. Let's see what this sounds like. Yeah, so the effect compressor is only being hit on the kick because I'm using that detection mode so that it hits the threshold and we start to shape our sound. So that's really great. I love that dynamic processor. I love the way it sounds. All of the compressors inside of the effects collection sound amazing. Let's go to the VC76. Lot simpler item here. I don't have any of that capability. I do have the all buttons here. Let's see what this sounds like now. Okay, so there's some of that crushing that I was talking about, where it's making its imprint, but not necessarily in a good way. I'm going to open up the attack a little bit. Maybe I'll back off. Let's go 12 on the ratio scale. Maybe we'll just back off of that release a little bit. Let's see what this sounds like. Yeah, so you can see that this is something of a wild beast and it really wouldn't work for this specific application. If we were using it for parallel compression, I actually think it would sound really good. So I'm just going to kind of hack that. I think this is a great compressor, but maybe that's not what it does in this specific case. Using this mid detection mode, I think this FET from Arturia works really well. So I will use a parallel compressor from Native Instruments now. Let's use the VC76. Yeah, and something else that I like to do when I use parallel compression is use this in mono rather than stereo, and that should also help with the kick and the snare. Yeah, when we were using parallel compression in the stereo, it was getting all the percussion on the side. There was a guido there, which is a Latin instrument. It sounded kind of, over the top and too edgy. So it's nice to be able to get rid of some of that brittle sound. Okay, let's move on to the pianos here. So if I give you a little context, we have a running piano line. It goes like this. Okay, I currently have a great plugin in the Greg Wells Piano Centric, just to give it that tone, but I'm using a VCA compressor. Due to its gentle nature, it hugs the signal, it colors the signal, but again, it's not squash, it doesn't sound over the top. Without it, you can see that we gain a lot more dynamics, and it just sounds maybe perhaps a little bit uncontrollable. One of my favorite things about mixing is that you get to quite literally carve the space in which frequencies, sounds exist. And this is a perfect opportunity to take this wild signal that sounds like this without the compressor and isolation. Very crunchy signal. And one of the things that we could do to hack the system is still going to be crunchy, but now since it's placed a little bit further in the back, the attack is kind of not poking out as much. Now it sounds a little smoother in nature. Without it, yeah. So these are small things that you could do to really improve your mix. Here's the threshold. Here's the built-in ratio compression knob here. Got your attack release. And I love that you have an auto attack and auto release. I've never really seen that before, so that's pretty sweet. Built-in limiter as well. Your wet dry knob, which every plugin should have at this point. You got your advanced controls built in with the same advanced sidechain controls. So that's really awesome. If I use, let's say, the Comp VCA compressor by Native Instruments, the VC160, that's going to sound a little different. So let's see what this bad boy sounds like. So you can see how the VC160 goes from 0 to 100, whereas the Comp VCA has a little bit more room. You can get in there somewhere like 50, 60, 70%. You need malleability, flexibility when it comes to being a producer, composer, beat maker. You need to have your workflow on lockdown. And I love tools that give me this level, this range of control. So that's pretty good. Let's hear this in the context of the mix. Both of these are bypass. I'll turn one on, turn it off, and then turn the other one on and off. Here we go. Yeah, I see right there, it just got completely lost, whereas I can contain this sound but not necessarily have it be lost in the mix. Let's try that again. Yeah, really interesting there. I highly advise any one of you that are very serious about your craft to do this work. You know, stay up late, wake up early, do what you got to do. Understand the lay of the land, understand your tools, dedicate yourself 2 feet in. That's what it's all about. All right, that's the piano. Let's listen to Synth 1 chorus. So I'm going to come all the way down here. All right, and here we're going to be comparing some modulation sources, specifically choruses. This one is so good, guys. Can't believe how amazing this one sounds. And sometimes there is going to be a better product and it's going to fit your sound a little bit more. And I think also it's not a bad idea maybe to even own both of the products if you have that flexibility. It's within your means because they kind of do different things. For example, when I play this chorus, this emulative Juno 6 chorus, look how incredible it sounds, okay? So here's without it, just to be clear. You can hear what it's doing to the signal, again, without it in the context of the track. It's like I raised up the volume without raising up the volume. I love chorus because sometimes it helps position things in the mix, and it also sometimes helps have things back up in the mix as well. When I use choral by Native Instruments, I believe this is available in the complete package. Let me double, triple check for you. See if I go down here, studio effects. Yes, choral, available both in the standalone product and in the ultimate product. This is a great sounding chorus as well. Doesn't have the same kind of life, but you can use this in synth mode, in ensemble mode, dimension, and universal. So I'm trying to obviously compare the two so you get a better sense of what works for you. Again, I like the tone. I just think it's a lot more subtle. Take a listen. So I obviously hear something, but it sounds like it's softening the signal more than it's making it stand out. To prove this, let's go ahead and try these things in the context of the mix. We'll go back and forth. For the Juno 6 chorus, let's move on to the bass, another modulation source in the phasers. We've got the phaser Bitron going up against phases. Okay, so let's listen to both of these. Again, we're trying to compare them, make them sound as close as possible. Phaser Bitron has so many different elements here. Again, we have the advanced tabs. Like I can actually control this like a foot pedal, which is pretty gnarly. But let's listen to what we got right now using Phaser Bitron. All right, good. So it has a nice feel to it, nice color. I like adding phasers to basses. I personally just like that sound, and I usually back off the mix knob. Here is Phases by Native Instruments. So yeah, a little bit softer. Here's Bitron. Yeah, sounds like a live player, right? I actually played this, so it sounds like live players right in front of me. So here's Phases. Again, it's a little soft. It's which could be a good thing, by the way. Maybe you want to soften a signal, push it back a little bit. You don't want to use a filter. You use a phaser. Let's check this out. All right, I'll let you pick. In my estimation, one of them sounds a little bit more rock and roll, one a little more live. Definitely have a lot more controllers. We've got looks like two oscillator sources here, whereas with phases, looks like we just have one, and we've got an ultra button there where we can turn it up. But very cool. Let's move on here.